Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. Today we're going to do a special report about Kal-El, Clark Kent, the Man of Steel, the Man of Tomorrow, also known as Superman. There's some hardcore DC fans that think that I dislike the DC characters due to my criticism of what they've done in the movies lately. I'm just letting you know up front that this is going to be a positive review about Superman. It's his 80th anniversary in comics. He was first introduced in Action Comics #1 back in 1938. Think about how long ago that is. Franklin Roosevelt was the president and comics cost a dime. The character was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Joe Shuster was born in Toronto, so Canada actually has a claim on Superman. He's the all-American hero that was co-created by a Canadian. That's quite a nugget of history, don't you think? The release of Action Comics #1 kicks off the golden age of comics, and Superman is the cornerstone and the archetype of virtually every superhero after him. There are literally hundreds of copycats and ripoffs, but he is the original. Superman is the equivalent of like the Ford Motor Company. Ford isn't just a car company, they're an institution. And Superman isn't just a comic book character, he is an institution as well. His fellow DC hero, Batman, may be the most popular character of all time, but Superman is the most important and the most iconic of all time. People that never read a comic book in their life know that his identity is Clark Kent. They know he's from Krypton. They know his girlfriend is Lois Lane. They know his arch enemy is Lex Luthor. They know that his sidekick is Jimmy Olsen. They know that he works at the Daily Planet. The S on his chest, the blue and red suit, the flying, the X-ray vision, the heat vision, the frost breath. He is the prototypical superhero as we know it. There are other pulp heroes that predate him like John Carter of Mars, Flash Gordon, Tarzan, Doc Savage, characters like that, but none of them are more famous than the Man of Tomorrow, Superman. Not only is it the 80th anniversary of Superman in comics, it's the 40th anniversary of Superman in the movies. Warner Brothers had acquired ownership of DC Comics back in the early 1970s. And in 1977, Fox had tremendous success with their science fiction opera, Star Wars. So this gave Warner Brothers the confidence to invest in Superman and make it a Hollywood blockbuster and give it the budget that it deserved. The lead actor in this movie was Christopher Reeve, who is still recognized by a big section of the populace as the Superman that they know. Superman the movie made its debut in the summer of 1978, directed by Richard Donner. It was an overwhelming success critically and commercially. Considering that CGI and the special effects that we know today did not exist, they did a very good job, and this movie still holds up very well after 40 years. Lois Lane was played by Margot Kidder, who gave us the toughest nails news reporter that we're just not getting with other Lois Lanes. And Lex Luthor was played by Gene Hackman. His interpretation was kind of campy evil, but it wasn't bad either. He did a decent job. I'm not going to spend that much time on the live action TV Supermans or the voice actors in radio and animated form. There are literally dozens of those guys and would be here all day. Some of the most famous ones I got in the crawl that you're looking at right now. But I will discuss the other 2.5 actors that played him in live action movies. Okay, so here it goes. Christopher Reeve played Superman in 4 movies from 1978 through 1987. The first 2 were pretty darn good. The last 2, not so much. Unfortunately, Christopher Reeve was injured in a horse riding accident which left him paralyzed and a quadriplegic who was confined to a wheelchair. However, his spirit never stopped fighting, and him and his wife established the Christopher Reeve and Dana Reeve Foundation to raise money in the research towards spinal cord injuries, specifically in the realm of stem cell research. Chris is no longer with us. He died from complications from his injuries, and his wife died of cancer. However, Chris's son is continuing to fight, so props to him. And now a moment of silence. Now, the show must go on. The next actor that was supposed to play Superman was Nicolas Cage. Unfortunately, I have to talk about this. It was a proposed live-action movie reboot of the Superman franchise in which Tim Burton would direct. This is not Photoshop. This is a real picture of what he would look like as Superman. Fortunately, the project was killed and never saw the light of day. Thank God. If you insist on learning more about this, I'll put links in the description where you can find more resources about it. But seriously, I don't know why you would. Another reboot was attempted in 2006 and it did make it to theaters. It was called Superman Returns, in which Brandon Routh was selected to play the lead character. It had the look and feel of the original Superman Richard Donner films. It had its moments, but it didn't really go anywhere. It had a very weak box office performance. If you recognize Brandon Routh, he's been cast to play the Atom in Legends of Tomorrow on television. And the latest Superman right now is Henry Cavill. This British actor has done a fine job in my opinion. Even though I'm not satisfied with the material he was given, I do like him as Superman. It's a great choice. He starred in 3 films so far, with Man of Steel in 2013, Batman vs. Superman in 2016, and Justice League in 2017. He's rumored to appear in the upcoming Shazam movie in spring of 2019, but as of right now, there's no true Superman sequel on the books at the moment. If you've been watching my channel long enough, you know that I've been campaigning for a full reboot of the whole DCEU. It would be a shame because we'd have to lose Henry Cavill, who's such a great actor. Hopefully that image of Nicolas Cage isn't giving you nightmares. On another story, a 9.0 CGC graded copy of Action Comics #1 sold on a special eBay sale for $3.2 million, the highest for a comic book ever. And 1% of the proceeds was given to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I'll give you more information about that in the description as well. But for right now, you know what time it is. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. And of course, we're going to keep it on Superman with Action Comics issue 1000 as your pick of the week for April 18th, 2018. And we're getting a Jim Lee cover with the classic red trunks. So it all started like this with Action Comics #1 in 1938, which cost 10 cents. And now after 80 years of publication, we're up to issue 1000, which goes for $8. And of course there's going to be variants, but DC did it in a classy way and they didn't go so over the top with it. They're doing a variant which depicts Superman for each decade of his existence. So the cover B 1930s variant is done by Steve Routh and it looks like this. The cover C variant is inspired by the 1940s and is drawn by Michael Cho. The 1950s inspired variant is drawn by Dave Gibbons. You know, that was the science fiction era. The 1960s inspired variant is drawn by Michael Allred. It has that checkerboard style that the DC publisher thought it would help DC Comics stand out on a newsstand at the time. The 1970s inspired variant is drawn by comic legend Jim Steranko. He's most famous for his work on Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. The 1980s variant is drawn by Joshua Milton, who I think is one of the most underrated cover artists in the game. The 1990s inspired variant is drawn by Dan Jurgens. And the 2000s variant is drawn by Lee Bomero. And there's a cover J blank variant, so if you take this to a con, you can get some commission work done on it. Of course, there's probably going to be some store sanctioned variants and stuff like that, but for the most part, this is pretty much it, and I applaud DC for not going too over the top on it. As always, there's a runner-up of the week, and this week it's going to be Batman #45. In this issue, Booster Gold shows up and recruits both Batman and Catwoman on a time-traveling mission with the goal to kidnap a younger version of himself. So yeah, that's a pretty weird plot, but it's in the hands of Tom King, who's one of the best new writers in comics these days. So here's your recap. Superman is 80 years old. He's been in the movies for 40 years, and Action Comics #1000 has just dropped this week. So go ahead and pick that up. And I dedicate this video in the memory of Christopher and Dana Reeve. They are real life heroes. Rest in peace. As always, be sure to subscribe, give the thumbs up, and share these videos on social media so others can learn about the channel. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. Thank you for watching this special report about Superman on his 80th birthday. This is Comic Killer 72 signing out and saying bye-bye.